And it's so easy when we're overwhelmed, we want to blame the other person. We want to say, if you just did a couple things differently, this would all go away. And the reality is there was nothing on that board that was going away. And I still want to be able to fuck my husband and enjoy my husband and love my husband through all that. And the reality is, if I find a way to have sex with my husband that feels good through all that, we are going to feel like more of a team tackling this mountain of stuff that it means to be two people leading a family these days. Welcome to the Sex After Kids podcast, a place for parents to come and learn together about the sometimes bumpy road back into the saddle of their sex life after adoption, childbirth, or joining a blended family. I am your host, Sophia Ashley, certified sex educator and sex coach, mother and stepmother, and your totally TMI guide to becoming BFFs with your body and initiating easy, connected, and confident, naked, sexy fun times. Here we are, 1 part science of sex, 1 part mindfulness magic, and 1 part straight up real talk to help you find the spark in your relationship and yourself after kids. I am so glad you are here. Hey friends, welcome back to the Sex After Kids podcast. Today we are talking about one of the most loaded, frustrating, and misunderstood dynamics in long-term relationships, especially with kids, and that is the mental load. If you are the one carrying it, you are probably thinking, if they would just step up, then maybe I'd want sex again. And if you're the one trying to help, you might silently be screaming, I am doing my part, and it's still not enough. And so I want to validate both of you, and I want to encourage both of you to explore your pieces of the equation. Because what's happening and what I see in a lot of the couples that they talk to is they sort of equate, if we just solve this mental load problem, desire will come back and our sex life will be great. Now, mental load, how we share childcare and chores definitely has a lot to do with libido and desire in sex. We're going to break that down in this episode. And it is not the silver bullet that's going to solve your sex life, which we will also talk about. There is a way through, and we're going to explore that in this episode. So stick around. All right, so what is the mental load anyways? Why does it matter, right? If you're on the internet these days, if you're a woman on the internet these days in particular, the mental load is everywhere. And basically what we want to talk about when we talk about the mental load is that it's this idea that when we're doing the chores of everyday life, of domestic living with another partner and children, there's not just the doing of the laundry, the packing of the lunches, the driving to the extracurricular. There is the mental load of thinking about any task, so conceiving of the task, planning the task, and implementing the task. So an example is for lunches, it's not the act of actually making lunch, right? It's about thinking through your child's food preferences, making sure whoever's grocery shopping has all the right stuff in the pantry on any given day so that you can make a lunch. It's thinking through what is healthy versus what your children are going to actually eat. And then there's actually packing the lunch night after night after night. So the mental load is the thought process that goes into everything that goes into something that looks as simple as packing lunch, okay? Laundry is the same thing. This is everything from thinking through who needs what clothes and making sure that we've got the soccer uniform or the swimsuit clean for practice, which is on a particular day. It's also about paying attention to which clothes don't fit anymore, which clothes are soiled or ripped, rotating things seasonally, right? There's an invisible load that goes with a lot of these chores and a lot of managing life. Okay. It really is about sort of being the CEO of family logistics. And of course, there's no sick days, no pay, and often no recognition, right? So recent studies show that about 89% of women or people who identify as women report being the main noticer of household needs. And in particular, when it comes to mental load, often what happens is women, especially when we're stay-at-home moms or when we're home during maternity leave, really get delegated to the monotonous, like day-to-day tasks. So the tasks that are never done. They're almost Sisyphusian, right? We push the rock up the hill and we never get the rock up to the top of the hill, because no matter how often I do dishes, no matter how many times I cook dinner, no matter how many loads of laundry I do, there is still going to be more to do. And often men will take on certain tasks, but they tend to be sort of the one-off tasks, like bringing the truck for a seasonal tire changeover and oil change, or once a week mowing the lawn. So they're things that are less frequent. And they're also things that like are open and shut. I take the car to the shop, it gets fixed, it's done, and it might need to happen again in another 6 months, but not tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Okay. So 32% of men reported doing that kind of mental work kind of without being asked. I think those numbers are improving a lot. There's a lot of literacy, like we're naming better how this all works. But a big thing that happens is that a lot of this mental load stuff comes from invisible scripts, right? And so sometimes we have a pretty equitable relationship before children. We both work full time. We have our way of splitting. You love to cook and I love to do laundry. So great. That's how we do it. Or we each cook equally and we do our own laundry. And then kids happen. And sometimes we default to these blue and pink, quote unquote, jobs without even realizing. Or women or the primary caregiver, whoever ends up kind of staying on maternity leave, like in Canada, right? Like you end up being the one who's home doing all those things. Your partner is out doing the quote unquote paid labor. And it's easy for us to feel, well, like I go out and earn the money and you are home and you do all the other things, and that's fair. And we're starting to unpack why that is not fair, why that is not equal, and what that does to our relationships and to our bodies. Because what happens is the person who's taking on more than their fair share of the mental load ends up being in a nervous system maxed out space. They are constantly thinking 10 steps ahead, not only for themselves, but for everyone else. So multiply that for the number of children that you have. And it just means it's hard to live in the moment because you are constantly thinking about, when do I need to sign up for those lessons? And when are we planning summer and all that kind of stuff? And so your partner is going to work and making money, absolutely, but there is a massive load on the primary caregiver, typically, that leads to depletion, that leads to being in caregiving mode, that leads to your partner feeling like just another person that you have to take care of or give instruction to. And that leads to sex, quite frankly, just being another thing in this never-ending to-do list that you do for other people and not yourself. Okay? So this is the reality of mental load, and this is the reality of how it often sneaks up on even the most like liberal, progressive, feminist, whatever you want to call it, of couples. And typically what will happen is women will try to bring this up, men will get defensive because we get stuck in the scripts that we have and we don't see the invisible load. So here's how I want to shift the story, okay? We have been sold a sneaky little myth, right? So as literacy of the mental load has increased, as we've talked about sort of like what we call chore porn, right? So like our husbands start to believe, if I just start doing the dishes without being told, she's going to want me. Or I start to think if my partner just did X and Y and Z, then I will magically want him or them, right? So we've been told that if our partner just does more, then we'll finally feel relaxed enough to want sex again. Or if you're the partner doing more, you've been told do the dishes and your partner will be turned on. And the spoiler here is it doesn't quite one-to-one match that way. So like I said before, it's not to say that mental load does not matter. It absolutely does. Okay. And if we aren't having mental load conversations in our relationship, we need to start to do that. I'll put some resources in the show notes. But when we treat it like a silver bullet that will save our sex life, we are setting ourselves up to fail. Here's the metaphor that I want to offer, okay? The mental load is like a leaky roof. So if your roof is leaking, it does need to be fixed. It is damaging your house. It is damaging your relationship, right? If one person is doing more than the other or perceives themselves to be doing more than the other, there's an erosion of trust, there's an erosion of intimacy in your relationship. But fixing the leak in your roof does not mean that your house becomes a 5-star hotel. It just means that you're not getting soaking wet every night. You still need to decorate, connect, laugh, dream. You still need to make your house, your relationship, something that feels like home. So the mental load is really about survival. And yes, we need to get out of or find ways to step out of survival mode. But sex, really great sex in our relationship, is about aliveness. And aliveness comes from a lot of different places. So let's talk about couples where everything is technically fair, right? Like maybe you both work and you both do bedtime, you both take turns with groceries, and you're still feeling miles apart. If that's you, right, you're not broken. You're just stuck in this bigger lie that fairness equals intimacy. But fairness is a metric, right? And we can get to a place where I remember having a conversation with my partner where he was like, do we need to get a chalkboard out and like actually notch points? Because like that's what you're doing in your head. And of course, I was resistant to the idea because fairness is a metric, right? Intimacy is a felt experience. It's the difference between splitting a bill and feeling generous, between saying, I love you and meaning it. So many higher libido partners come to me saying, I've done everything that they've asked and they still don't want me. And so many low libido partners say, even when they help, I feel like I have to manage them or I feel like it's never enough. It's like the goalpost is always moving. Are we tracking each other's stress or are we just keeping a scorecard in our head? Are we offering presence to our partner? Or are we offering just performance? How do we break this down? So the first level or space of this might be that there is absolutely unequitable or unfair distribution, sharing of chores and childcare in your relationship. And if you haven't had that conversation and you're operating from automatic scripting in your space, then it is worth exploring where and how you can both carry the load differently. Now, I could do a whole other episode like on mental load and all the dynamics. I'll say for the person who thinks they're doing it all or who feels like they're doing it all, the exploration for you is, are you willing to let go of being right about how tasks are done? And can you actually give your partner room to learn how to do some of the tasks on their own time and do them in their own way? And this was a really big one for me. I think the example that comes to mind here is I remember in my early parenting days, a friend of mine talked about how when you are the partner home on maternity leave, you get to fail privately all day. So let's say you're feeding your kid, right? You're feeding your kid 6 times a day. You are learning what they don't like and what they do like. You are learning how they want to play. You are learning how they want to be soothed. And there isn't anyone looking at you over your shoulder going, hey, do you want me to tell you how to do that? Hey, I've been doing this all day and this is what works really well. You get to fail in privacy. You get to have a meltdown and freak out at your kid and then apologize and all the things without anyone watching you. And when your partner who's been working all day comes home and is trying to do the same thing, but you're there trying to meaningfully offer the advice of your hard-earned wisdom, you are getting in the way of their own learning process. So that kind of is when it comes to like being able to work with the kid, right? And so it's easy for them to just go, fine, here's the baby. You just figure, you know how to make it stop crying, so you do it, right? We have to give our partners the room to make those mistakes privately and to do their own learning, which is 2 things. One, if you are finding yourself in the space, leave your fucking house more often, okay? Take 1 night a week where you go on an epic walk or you hide at a girlfriend's house or whatever you need to do, and you are just not there during bedtime so that your partner can figure out their own rhythm and their own way to do it and do it confidently. Okay. If you are the partner who is trying to do better, who is being asked to do more, I know it can feel like you're doing a lot. And the really simple analogy that I want to offer honestly to both of you is that even if you were sharing this 100% equitably, 50-50, or 60-40, whatever's going to work in your partnership, there are still 5 jobs for 2 people to do. It is a full-time job to learn how to support your children and parent them. It is a full-time job to manage a home and its repairs and all of the things you own and buy groceries and all of those things. It is a full-time job, sometimes 2 full-time jobs, to earn enough money to live in the society that we live in. It is also can be a part-time or full-time job to care for your parents who are aging and the people around you. And there is just flat out more jobs than there are people to do them. This is the reality of villageless parenting. And so it is not to say that seeking more equity in how you manage this is futile. It's very important. And I can say that my partner, even just taking 5 or so tasks off of my list, has game changed our relationship and how supported I feel in it. And really, all of our other tasks are just floating around and we're each picking them up. Okay. So it's not to say this is a futile exercise. It's a necessary exercise. And no matter how perfectly managed it is, you are still going to feel like there is more to do than you have time to do it in. If you are the person being asked to step it up, I implore you to educate yourself about the mental load. I implore you to start thinking through together what is all the invisible work that goes into the visible work. And you can think about just breaking down what Eve Rodsky in the Fair Play book calls the daily grind cards. What is all the invisible work involved in managing clothing, in managing food, in managing garbage and like home cleanliness? And even just start with those 3. The Fair Play book is a great start. I will caution any man listening. If you are high on the defense of this, it is not a good place for you to start. It is written from the perspective of a woman who's having her major light bulb moment through her frustration and her challenges with her partner. If you want to learn more about this from a male perspective that can meet you where you are starting in this conversation and move forward, then check the show notes for a couple of my favorite Instagram influencers in this space. There's a book coming from one of them really soon that I'm very excited to read and be able to share. And honestly, this is where we can get into the DMs and get into a one-on-one chat and figure out what your blind spots are. Okay. I'm here to support you, to see what you're not seeing, and bring you into the conversation. Okay. So this is step 1. So if we are not having this conversation, then we need to. Step number 2 is maybe you have had this conversation. Maybe you are sharing things. Maybe you are still feeling like it's not happening or it's short-lived or all that kind of stuff. And this is where like it's a work in progress. And I just want to bring you back to the truth that if this is your person and everything works otherwise, you love this person and you enjoy their company and all of that fun stuff, then it's going to take time for both of you to unlearn. Female partners typically need to unlearn their overfunctioning, and male partners need to unlearn the value placed on their providing money as the only way that they provide value in their relationship. Okay. So we both need to see differently, and that takes time. And like I said, if you wait for that to be the thing that magically fixes your libido, you may likely be waiting forever, because even if we get the division of labor to a fair place, right? It doesn't have to be 50-50. It's just fair, whatever that looks like in your relationship. You are likely to still feel like there is more going on than you can handle. Here's a juicy question to think about. And this is kind of both sides, because the other thing is we can get into this trap where our partner starts doing more of these things in a performative way in order to get laid. Or it feels like you're not picking up some load because you're my true partner in life. You're picking up this load in order to have sex for me. It can feel transactional, right? So often this feeling of like whatever my partner does is not enough is about the disconnection that we're feeling from them. So there's kind of this loop, right? Where the less we're supporting each other equally, the more disconnected we feel. But then the more disconnected we feel, the more we perceive the load to be unequitably distributed. And it's so easy. It's so common. I've been to counseling where we've mapped out literally everything that needed to get done on the day to day, on the week to week, on the month to month, on the quarter to quarter, on the year to year. And it's so easy when we're overwhelmed. We want to blame the other person. We want to say, if you just did a couple things differently, this would all go away. And the reality is there was nothing on that board that was going away. And I still want to be able to fuck my husband and enjoy my husband and love my husband through all that. And the reality is, if I find a way to have sex with my husband that feels good through all that, we are going to feel like more of a team tackling this mountain of stuff that it means to be two people leading a family these days. So the work becomes asking the question, what would make me feel partnered, not just helped? And what would make me feel chosen, not just tolerated? Very different ask, right? So I want you to stop trying to fix your sex life by fixing your partner. If I just change him, if I just change them, if they just magically become the perfect partner, our sex life will become better. I'm not denying that when things shift, your sex life will shift. And it's not the only thing that's going to shift it. We want to start trying to revive our sex life by rebuilding our connection despite and through and because of all that is challenging. We don't need a perfectly divided to-do list, although being on the path to that helps. We do need shared meaning, shared stress relief, and shared joy, pleasure, okay? So places we can start. The first is to acknowledge the overwhelm, not with blame, just truth. Just to say out loud, there's a lot going on for both of us. Maybe neither of us is doing it wrong. Maybe it's just heavy, right? I live in a house where both my partner and I are entrepreneurial. We are constantly taking on new things. We've got in-laws we're taking care of, both locally and not. We've got 3 kids. We've got a neurodiverse kid. My partner's neurodiverse. Sometimes we can just start by agreeing without blaming that there's a lot going on, right? We can shift from fairness to fluidity, which is looking more at like, how can I support you today instead of who did more? And I think Brene Brown kind of has this metaphor of like, this is where the part of the equity piece comes in, is like, we're not all showing up at 100% every day. And what's really hard and what has been hard in my relationship is my 100% looks very different than my partner's 100%, because I'm of an overfunctioner, because I probably have ADHD, because my stress response is to do more when I'm stressed. It makes my partner's stress response, which is to do less when he's stressed, even worse. It makes my judgment part of my brain go, you're lazy. I just want to say all these tough things. And probably the biggest thing I learned in therapy was, when I am feeling stressed and I want to blame it on my partner, when I am feeling blamey and critical of my partner, that's a light bulb, a red flag that Sophia's feeling stressed out. I often am not like, I'm stressed out. I'm going, I'm attacking my partner. That's a sign I'm stressed. And so I need to notice that flag and say, I'm stressed. I need support, right? My partner can also go, okay, she's attacking me a lot more. Whoa, she's stressed. How can I support her, right? Same thing. I notice now, instead of judging my partner when I see him, zoning out in front of Star Trek, needing to sleep more, right? Again, it's easy as the hyperactive person to go into critical mode. That's my flag that he's stressed. And instead of being, what the fuck's wrong with you? I have to say, what's going on and how can I help? Likewise, he needs to tune into that cue, right? So noticing our cues for stress and overwhelm, and noticing who has what capacity to show up today and supporting each other with that. All of that's a lot easier when we have emotional labor or mental load conversations ahead of time. And Eve Rodsky's card game, which you can just buy the card game, she literally has a card for all of the 100 or so tasks that you have to do. And you start to have a conversation about who owns which card. And if I own the card, I'm responsible for the conceptualization, the planning, and the implementation of that card. So I don't do pieces of the card, I do the whole card. And the beauty of that is, like, laundry is my card. My husband just never thinks about laundry because laundry is my card. And that frees up his brain when he sees laundry around and he's wondering if it's getting done or not. He can just go, Sophia's got it. That's her card. My husband's generally on dishes. Shift work is a whole other thing. I don't think about the dishes. I know that he's doing them. And we make an agreement on what the bare minimum standard is. So what does having the laundry done look like? What does having the garbage taken out look like? What does dishes done look like? So when we can even start with, you have these 3 cards and I have these 3 cards, neither of us thinks about or micromanages the other person's 3 cards, and we agree together what the bare minimum standard is, that can help a lot. And from there, if I'm noticing my partner's in overwhelm, I can take a card off of my partner's desk today if I'm at 100% and I can see that they're at like 30, right? So we want to shift from fairness to fluidity. We want to notice when people are stressed, notice when we're stressed, notice when our partner's stressed. This is a key skill. This is why we talk so much about the nervous system in the Naked Fun Comeback, my signature program. And then we're shifting to that fluidity. How can we be supporting? The more we educate ourselves about mental load, the less we have to ask what we can do to help. And the more we can go, you're looking stressed. I got dishes and dinner tonight. You go have a nap, do whatever, right? The last piece that I'll offer is around co-regulation. So this is about finding moments to loan our partner our calm nervous system. So if I walk in, I've had a great day at work. Let's just imagine, okay, I'm feeling good. I listen to great music on the drive home. I come in and my partner is dealing with toddlers, screaming at them, and dinner is on fire. I am going to loan my nervous system to them. Let's take 3 deep breaths together, right? Touch, holding hands, taking those deep breaths. These are ways to co-regulate. They are also ways to increase the connection, increase that sense of, I got you, I love you, we're in this together. So connection does not come from crossing off those tasks, right? It comes from choosing each other again and again in the chaos. It comes from looking at each other and going, this is wild and wonderful. And I'm going to choose to love you through it all while we continue to work on sharing the load, knowing that we can actually use sex to help create the connection through the challenge, or we can use the challenge as a reason to become further and further disconnected. So if the mental load has been the silent killer of desire for you, I see you. Hey, I've been there. And if you have tried everything to help, or you think you've tried everything to help and it still doesn't feel like enough, I see you too. Okay. The reality is that there's likely an imbalance, and also likely that we're using our stress as a reason to point the finger at the other person, blame everything or a lot of our stress on them, and desire for them to just magically make the stress go away, which is fictional thinking, okay? When we prioritize getting back to fun, flirtation, and connection through all that, or despite all that, then we start to see each other and show up for each other. So if this has landed for you, a few next steps. You can take the Solve Your Sex Drive quiz over on my website. I'll put the link in the show notes. This is going to help you know which of the 4 desire drivers you are missing and how to prioritize more pleasure and play and connection so that we can build an on-ramp back to your sex life. And if you're wanting to dissect this a little more, if you're wanting to analyze whether you truly do need to work on the mental load, maybe with a coach or a therapist, or if it's time to find a way through that kind of connection piece and like ditch this false silver bullet, then I invite you to book a spark session with me, right? No pressure, no scripts. We're just going to real talk about what's got you stuck and how we can figure out this mental load piece to get you back to fun and flirty times with your partner. Because you both deserve a sex life that feels fun and not forced. And it starts here. Thanks so much for listening today. Share far and wide, like, and leave a review. It helps. And I will catch you next week. This is the part where we do the end bit, right? My friends, let's take a mindfulness minute here. Take a deep breath in. Open that mouth and let out a big, deep, full body sigh. Voila. Your nervous system thanks you. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope that your head and your heart have something new to consider, something new to talk about, and something new to try. No husbands were harmed in the making of this podcast, and a big thank you to my husband for his help and original music composition. Love you, babe. This podcast was recorded on the traditional territories of the Kwanlin First Nation and Tonquachan Council in Whitehorse, Yukon. We acknowledge and are grateful to the original stewards of this land where we get to play, live, and raise our children. You can catch me on the Instagram at the Happy V Project for tips, tools, and anecdotes. And you can also join the weekly-ish newsletter for dispatches from my bedroom and my brain. Also, head to thehappyvaginaproject.com to learn more about how you can work with me. Catch you next time.